yourself together before it's too late.
Well, Brian, of course, obviously a topic of American conversation is the assassination. But with any action, there's also sometimes unintended or not expected consequences. And we're already seeing those develop. Two, just this week, so related to, but not direct, well, I guess you can say directly related to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The first is MSNBC, as most of our listeners probably know, has a very popular show, Morning Joe.
Correct.
And Joe Scarborough, just quick background, was once very conservative and now has moved to much more liberal and definitely anti-Donald Trump. Okay.
Right.
And his partner, Mika, same way. And he and Trump have had many personal, kind of confirmations. And what was it? What did Trump say about Mika one time? She was bleeding from her whatever,
Right.
So there's no love lost there. And, but I did not know. I've never watched the show. I don't watch. I've watched excerpts of it. What's important, but I did not know. And did you know it's really on for 4 hours in the morning? Is that true?
I think what they do is they have it on for at least for an hour, and then they show a rerun of it. I know it's on at 6, and that's when it comes on, and then it says so. Maybe it's like maybe 2 hours of it, and then they run it again.
Or coming back in with reports,
Right.
Could be like 15 minutes, but whatever. But apparently,
I only, traditionally during the work year, I only get to watch around 20 minutes of it in the morning, but that's enough.
Right.
You catch it at 6 o'clock.
And of course, he again has become, as people do, a tremendous personality. People probably say, I don't watch anybody but Joe Scarborough. Just like I don't watch anybody but Sean Hannity. That's the way we have it now, right? Back in the day, to steal from our kids, everybody watched the Today Show, but we don't do that now. We have all these different things on cable and whatever. So what happens is Monday, which would be their first show, the morning show, I'm sorry, excuse me, MSNBC decides not to air the show. And
Right.
what they did was air a live news feed from NBC.
And it was very nebulous when it came out, so I had no idea. Even after reading it, it was very difficult to comprehend.
Well, you expect, imagine people wake up and have their coffee with Joe. That's what they do Monday through Friday, unless he announces that we're on vacation or, we're going to be late today because we're at the Republican convention or whatever. You wake up, and whenever that routine, it suddenly jars you. And you say, well, what's up with that, right? So I think people, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the tape yet, but I don't know what kind of announcement NBC said. They might have said nothing, right? But anyway, obviously, Mr. Scarborough and Mika were upset. You don't want to be, that's a big story.
And they looked upset. They did.
Yeah.
They didn't start off with it immediately, but then when he came in, you could see he was pissed.
Think about it. It would be sort of like, I keep saying don't use sports analogies with politics, and then I keep using sports analogies with politics. But it would be like, okay, on the Super Bowl, you're the starting quarterback, you got them there, and the coach comes up to you, we're not going to use you today. We're going to use this other guy. That's really what it is. You want to be there. Well, if you have a story this big, you want to be there. His actual quote, because of course there was time between the Monday no show and the airing on Tuesday, he just said he was surprised and disappointed with MSNBC's decision and kind of left it at that. Then when he came out, he got a little bit stronger and said, in effect, among other things, he said, the next time that happens will basically be the last time. Because
he said, well, I won't be sitting in this seat anymore.
I won't be sitting. That's exactly what he said, Brian. That's exactly what he said. If they're going to replace this with anything, that way. And MSNBC, to my knowledge, at this point, has not really issued any reason officially why they did that. I'm sure they've given reasons to Scarborough and Mika. But here's the thing. Of course, news organizations, whether you think they're good, bad, or whatever, they're extremely competitive. And so CNN... And you have sources there. People. It's not like,
was CNN doing the same thing? Did they pull their broadcast?
No. The only thing that was done was on Scarborough's show, as far as we know. Now, maybe
Which is
somebody in
odd because if any
well,
of the networks, you wouldn't expect MSNBC to pull something.
and especially when he is to mornings what Rachel Maddow was tonight. I mean,
Right.
it's almost that big. But anyway, CNN and what they don't realize, people go back and forth. People work at CNN, Fox. I mean, there are different things, and so you always have friends and contacts, and you switch information and swap and that kind of stuff. So I don't know how they got this story, but they reported that MSNBC management was concerned that commentators or guests, not mentioning Scarborough or Mika by name, and probably not, because I think they were talking about, they have regular commentators on, and of course they have guests, would make an inappropriate comment, which would be something either, something like you saw. One of the first comments I saw after the shooting was, which is, kind of tasteless, but given the feelings that Trump engenders, somebody said, "You had one job," meaning the shooter. You couldn't even do that, which, it's not something you want to make. So we don't know at this point. That will develop. But what I would say to MSNBC management, as a former journalist, you fucked up. You don't do that. You don't do it for your own self.
Could you imagine Joe Scarborough while it was happening, how pissed he would have been?
Oh, absolutely. And should be.
Right. That we don't know, that scene.
No, and we probably never will know that. Because if they can.
I mean, it'll probably come out in a book sometime. Somebody will say,
well, yes, right, but it'll be a long time. And again, if it's not Joe, I mean, and the other thing, Brian, that I tell people, and I believe this to be true, again, from my journalistic experience and my life experience, there can be many versions of what people hear and see. Do you know what I mean? So it's not always a lie. It's just, it depends. Like, management is going to try to spin the story their way. Scarborough, of course, would try to spin it his way.
Right.
Mika would probably, we're all there. But like I said, what I don't like, and I would confront anybody in MSNBC management, at a time when journalism is completely under fire for believability and decisions, taking a star or two stars off the air does not help the credibility of journalism. That's all I'm going to say on that. So I think, again, this may not be a story like so many that we follow a lot. It's not something that's that important. There's a second one, though, that I find even more fascinating than that, and that's a pretty big story. We're talking about the ramifications or unintended consequences that come from any action, and this action, of course, was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. So there's a band, if you will. I guess you could call them a band. They're called Tenacious D. And they're really just two guys, one of whom you know and one of whom nobody knows unless they follow the band. One member is Jack Black, the comedian.
Right.
In fact, his last movie, he was the voice of some cartoon, character. I forget whom. It made $540 million.
Something you and I would not watch, but yes.
Yeah, but Jack Black is extremely popular. And he is, first of all, he is established as a longtime supporter of Democrats. He actually has already spoken, in favor of Joe Biden before all this Joe Biden should run, shouldn't run. And one of the things that he and his partner, band partner, Kyle Glass, does is they're very anti-gun. Jack Black has always spoke out against weapons. Okay, so here's the scene. Black and Glass are on tour, a world tour, and they're in Australia. And it happened to be, I think, I might be wrong here, but I think it was Glass's 64th birthday. And so Black decided, they'd have you would do, because it's a little different with that band. They're not like the Rolling Stones, obviously. For Black, it's a second career, but they have a very narrow fan base, not huge. Probably more people follow him as a musician because they like him as an actor. So we're not talking about one of your faves, Alan Holdworth. I mean, it's not somebody at that level,
right?
But popular because of who he is and what he does. And so Black decides, which is pretty cool. He's going to have a birthday party for his buddy on stage, and he rolls out a cake. And he said and I heard the video. He says to Gass, you got to make a wish. And I'll repeat this twice, not because it's so bad at first, but second time. And guess his wish on stage in front of the Australian audience was, "Don't miss Trump next time." He said, "Don't miss Trump next time." And very quickly, Australian, not the prime minister, but some people in government, senators and their equivalents, just this one sent a message. There's no place in Australia for those who wish for the assassination of others. And so it became a viral story, in the internet. Again, remember Jack Black, well known, now in controversy. And so today, Black announced that their tour has been halted and all future plans for the band are on hold. Now, he also went to say directly, "I would never condone speech or encourage political violence in any form," which he didn't, okay? He is putting it. And then, of course, guess would have to do the walk back. And in the walk back, he says, and this is maybe legitimate. I'm not casting any aspersions on it. He said, "The line I improvised," and that's a key thing there, improvised, right, was highly inappropriate, dangerous, and a terrible mistake. Now, what's always interesting about those, if there had been no controversy, it wouldn't be a terrible mistake. You have to get caught. All right. We all do that. I don't know, it's one thing for someone after a period of time where they had time to reflect. I mean, it was within, I don't know, it was within, not too much time, but it was a very inappropriate remark, especially because it was made inappropriate. And I'm sure there's many, many, many who would do the same wish or want.
Not like that. When you start making those kind of comments, you've got more of those crazes on the other side. So that's the real issue. I mean, you don't want anybody to incite violence because it might come against you.
Yeah, and I think the idea, when you see a fire, and ladies and gentlemen, it's my belief that America is on fire right now. You don't throw gasoline on the fire.
Right.
You throw water on the fire. You temper it. You do what Joe Biden did. You do what Nancy Pelosi, who does have a right to speak about violence against her husband, you do what they did. You come out and say, "We're opposed to this in all forms. We need to temper. We need to cool off. We need to do that." So that remark, but it's always interesting how things ripple out. And we'll just use an example of this. Tenacious D, Jack Black at the top of his game, and suddenly now all kinds of questions by something that they had no direct contact with, right? So we have two different observations here. MSNBC preempted something for fear it would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a thing where it did happen.
But couldn't that happen anytime during the week?
Oh, yeah.
And any show, not just Morning Joe. It could happen at any show.
No. But what I'm saying is, for some people, it will lend credence. Well, MSNBC did the right thing. Still didn't. You don't preempt, you go. Especially when you're in
I think Joe would know how to handle that kind of situation.
One thing you can say, and like I said, I see him in clips only. I know what he is good at what he does. You can argue about what he does, right? And you can argue that he's too popular and nobody should be that popular. You could argue that he has a vested interest in what he says, or you could argue.
I think some conservatives actually watch him.
Well, he has a long track record.
They don't like him, but they will watch him. Right.
No, but a long track record of being a conservative.
If you watch Fox, even if you're into Fox News, it's unless you're there to look at breasts, that's about it.
And again, we talked about the interplay between stations. There's also interplays between stars. I don't think you could find two people who are more politically opposite, but both in the same business, as Bill O'Reilly and Stephen Colbert. Yet they were friends.
Really?
Stephen used to call him Papa Bear. I mean, had a joke, but they really were. I mean, they disagreed, and because I think, well, Colbert at that point, he didn't have the Late Show, but he was with, he was on, excuse me, with Jon Stewart, and Colbert was playing a character, right? And he got his show, and he was playing, and he was good at it. In
Right.
fact, there were a lot of conservatives who were shocked when they found out he was,
Right.
poking fun at him. He was so good. And then when you can do that with satire, that's pretty damn good. Um, but Bill O'Reilly was doing the same thing. Like, we don't know, honestly, we don't know whether it's Joe Scarborough, Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity. We don't know what their real beliefs are. We don't know. But they establish those beliefs, and people who support them believe that that's who they are, and people who hate them believe that that's who they are. But in this case, I just thought it was interesting, the juxtaposition. Again, I messed up. I can never be president now. Shit,
Right.
I misspoke. But the idea is, again, not earth-shattering news, but they're the things that kind of fascinate me from time to time.
Especially you were a journalist, so that would really piss you off, I would think.
Well, of course. I mean, you don't do that. I'm sorry.
You don't put a sock in somebody's mouth who knows how to handle the situation.
And again, I think it reflects badly on MSNBC, which I don't care. But it reflects badly on journalism, and that I do care about. So again, enough on that for now. We'll see if we revisit it. It's not like something we know we will visit, but we'll see.
All right, dude. All right. Gotcha.